You're listening to Food Tech Talk, supply chain insights from farm to fork, a podcast discussing the latest trends and technologies in the food and supplements industries, brought to you by Trustwell, featuring conversations with regulatory experts, quality and safety champions, and thought leaders across the industry. I'm your host, Katy Jones, CEO at Trustwell. If you're loving the conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned to the end of the episode, where you'll hear our guests tell us their key food industry predictions for the next 12 months. All right, let's jump right in. We are delighted to welcome Michael Robbins, certified master chef, food innovator, and founder of Integrated Culinary Systems. Michael became the youngest master chef in America at just the age of 26 and has since built a remarkable career at the intersection of culinary excellence, product development, and commercialization. Today, we'll explore what it truly takes to create crave-worthy foods that are both responsible and commercially successful. Welcome to the podcast, Michael. Now, you mentioned crave appeal, and you also talk about needing products that balance both that, crave appeal and responsibility. You used that word earlier. How do you define that balance for your, in your career and then now for your clients when developing new food concepts?
Yeah, so the goal really is crave appeal, and the culture is responsible. And so that's really how we kind of balance that, right? So we have to be responsible in everything that we do. And we're constantly striving to build crave appeal, whether if we're building a product and we have room where we could up the sodium, but do we need to? Maybe it's okay to not do that. Maybe it's better to be more responsible. It's an added bonus for the consumer to have something that's delicious with crave appeal and then go, oh, wow, look at the benefits of this product as well.
So from your experience, where do most brands misstep when they're trying to make kind of better for you foods taste indulgent or have that crave appeal?
I don't know if misstepping is the way we'd frame it, but I think we're the conscience for a lot of our clients when we develop. We try to guide them through that process to avoid mistakes. We try to get those guardrails in place early so that we can prevent missteps, if you will, which results in a lower go-to-market cost, which is good for everybody.
Looking to improve your supply chain? At Trustwell, we've been connecting the dots between food industry and data for over 40 years to give you more control and visibility. Our comprehensive Food Logic platform sets a new standard for compliance, transparency, and quality in the food industry. Request a free demo. The link is in the show notes. We're excited to welcome Zoe Richards, Business Solutions Director at Trustwell. With over 2 decades of experience in fast-moving consumer goods, Zoe brings a global perspective on food safety, quality, and regulatory compliance with a strong focus on consumer-centric, science-based risk management. Today, we're going to talk about HFSS regulations in the UK, specifically the regulations surrounding foods that are high in fat, salt, and sugar, what they mean for manufacturers and retailers, and then how businesses can adapt while maintaining consumer trust and product quality. Welcome to the podcast, Zoe. So when you think back on your career, was there a defining moment that solidified your focus on that, the consumer-focused risk management, right? The risk reduction as a part of the food industry?
When the horse meat scandal hit, I think that really was quite a defining moment for a lot of us. And it was a huge wake-up call for the entire food sector. And what was striking about that situation was it wasn't the traditional food safety issues that, we sort of tried to mitigate every day, but it was around fraud, transparency, and trust. And products that consumers believed were beef turned out to contain horse meat. So for me personally, it cemented that idea that effective risk management had to be consumer-centric, because even if something meets a technical or a regulatory criteria, if it violates that customer trust, it still presents a significant risk.
So let's shift into a very hot topic in the UK right now. So the HFSS regulations, they're reshaping the UK food landscape. Can you tell us a little bit about this regulation and what's the core intent behind these policies, both from a public health perspective and a regulatory standpoint?
The main driver actually around HFSS was addressing the global challenge of diet-related disease, particularly obesity. So the UK government launched their obesity strategy, and HFSS was just one sort of initiative within many sort of ideas and thoughts that they had around trying to reduce obesity in the general public. And they recognize that the food environment, so how we're shopping and what we're exposed to, is influencing the consumer behavior. So product placement, price promotions, advertising, TV, radio, etc., all having such a big impact on what people are buying.
This is a big closing question, but if you could change one thing about how the food industry approaches compliance today, what would it be?
It's about how companies are managing and sharing product data internally. We talk about the consumer side of things, and that's growing massively. But still today, we've got companies who have critical information about their ingredients, the nutrition of those ingredients, and product specification are all sitting in separate systems or in their sort of departmental silos. The real challenge in food compliance isn't understanding regulations, it's managing the data that sits behind every product.
We're joined by Charlie Chappell, former Vice President of Innovation and Global R&D at the Hershey Company. With a career spanning over 25 years across Hershey and Procter & Gamble, Charlie has led large-scale transformation efforts at the intersection of innovation, marketing, and science. Today, we'll explore how reformulation can be more than just compliance. It can be a powerful engine for growth, trust, and long-term brand relevance. Welcome to the podcast, Charlie. Was there a moment in your career where you saw reformulation, kind of that shift from being maybe a bit of a challenge to more of an opportunity? Hey, we can actually grow the business through reformulation.
You're always taught to look at, when a change comes your way, don't look at it as just a challenge, but an opportunity. Sometimes if you're a first mover or an early mover in those sort of, when those things happen and you do that, and you're ready before everybody else, then you can win at the shelf. Because maybe it's the type of thing where, other people aren't moving as fast, or they're not able to find the solution as fast, and, they can't get the product to shelf, and you can do that.
How do you decide which products to reformulate versus just innovate from scratch?
So sometimes when you're doing innovation, you're actually doing reformulation and you don't even realize it. To me, this is why I think it's really important that your teams you need to have roughly the same organizations working both on the reformulation and the innovation. If you keep those two groups siloed and apart from each other, you'll never get that synergy.
So from your perspective, how can AI accelerate reformulation while still, maintaining, just that specialness of R&D and then obviously, product quality as well? I'm
in food. Our ultimate driver is taste, and taste is subjective. I said, I need an LLM for the tongue, which doesn't exist. And I can load in all this data, but taste is subjective, so it's not something a model can predict very well. So I think that's one of those things when you get into food safety is, where can you use it to speed things along that are based on objective and well-known science? And it's getting rid of non-value-added repetitious work that frees up people's time. But then make sure that you have subject matter experts watching the results of it so they can spot the flaws in the AI.
What's your food industry prediction for the next 12 months?
Yeah, well, I think you nailed it with fiber, right? I think that's going to be important. We've got some regulatory stuff to get through with colors and things, and just increasing responsibility. The consumer, as I said, is getting more educated. So it's going to be a lot more of that.
So if you could give one piece of advice to companies navigating reformulation today, what would it be?
I would say build up a culture and a set of expectations within your organization that you give people freedom to pursue novel solutions. Because I think if you use the same formulaic approach that you always have been, you're always going to be reactionary, falling behind, and you're always going to feel like you're chasing your tail.
What excites you most about the future of food regulation and its impact on consumer health?
The shift towards more proactive, data-driven food regulation. So they're not just collecting data and storing it and never looking at it again, but actually using that to help you, shape that overall food environment rather than reacting to individual safety issues, I think is really exciting.
Thank you for joining us for another bite-sized nugget of food tech talk, supply chain insights from farm to fork. Make sure to subscribe. And if you love the podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about Trustwell and request your free demo of our technology platform that connects food formulation, products, nutrition analysis, and compliant labeling with traceability, recall readiness, and supply chain transparency, please visit us at www.trustwell.com and click Get Started or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Thanks for listening.